Welcome to Let's Relieve Regret, the uplifting podcast where we talk about how to relieve what you're worrying about.
It can feel so good to finally let go. Let go of past hurts, let go of old grudges, let go of self-doubt, self-shame.
The thing is, we aren't always given the tools to let go. We're told to get over it, or it's time to move on. But how do we do that?
We will share our stories, tools, and strategies of how we let go to help you let go.
Let's begin.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Let's Relieve Regret podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. My name is Victoria Miraburcia, and I am one of your co-hosts, joined by my other co-host,
Shadow Ball.
And we also have a guest today. We're very excited about having a chat with Sam. Hello, Sam.
Hey, ladies. Good to be here. Thanks again.
Absolutely. So our guest today is Sam Mitchell. Sam runs a successful podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. He has autism, and this podcast has exploded and become very successful. He is here today to spread the mission of his podcast and nonprofit. He has thousands of downloads on Autism Rocks and Rolls and has had some big names on his show. Armani Williams, the first NASCAR driver, open about having autism, and American Idol rocker James Durbin, who has autism and Tourette's. His biggest guest of all was Dr. Temple Grandin, professor in animal science at Colorado State University and autism activist. He's even had WWE legend Mick Foley on his show, and more huge guests are upcoming as well. He's also a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, writer, and blogger. He sells merchandise, has several sponsors, sells ad space, and loves to promote his podcast and business. He also has a published TED Talk called Sold Structure. His official website is autismrocksandrolls.com. He is a high-functioning human being on the autism spectrum and on a mission to show people that he is not broken, does not need to be fixed, and that there is no normal in this world. He is successful with autism. He wants to celebrate the successes of all people. He embraces who he is and feels as though everyone should do the same. His mission is powerful, and this extraordinary idea is catching on and getting the world's attention. He has made it to the top 10 in People's Choice Podcast Awards, placed second in the state of Indiana for the JAG Entrepreneurship Project, was selected as the best business at the CEO trade show in Indiana, has had tremendous guests on the show, and is in the top 200 podcasts in all of Canada, while also being a current Davey Award winner. He looks forward to chatting with us to spread awareness about autism and mental health. Sam, wow, thank you for being here.
Yay, I'm so excited to dive in with you, Sam. I think we're going to have a great discussion today. Where are you calling in from in the world?
Where am I calling from? Well, currently I'm calling from College Place, aka Vincennes, Indiana, aka Vincennes University.
There we go. I could hear the accent a little bit in your voice. That's why I was asking. Let's do a check-in. Shadow, how are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10?
Pretty great. I'm going to say about an 8.5. 8.5, yeah, without any other explanation. I'm an 8.5.
All right, I like it. 8.5 without any other explanation. Sam, how are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with her 8.5.
Nice. Okay, well, I might as well join the bandwagon and I'll be an 8.5 too.
Yay, look at me.
8.5 as well, not 8.5 too. 8.5 as well. I'm always feeling good whenever we get to record the podcast, especially when we have guests, because I know I'm always going to learn something, get a new perspective, and dive deep. So does anybody have a cause for applause? Shadow, do you have a cause for applause for this week?
Okay, I do. And it's not even something that I personally did. It's just, I don't have a lot of things that I'm a super fan of. Like, I don't get really involved and stuff, but there is an exception to this, which is the musician Hozier. I love Hozier. I'm seeing him live in a few months. Anyway, last night at midnight, he released 4 new songs that weren't on his previous album. And you bet I stayed up super late just to be able to like press play at 12:01. All 4 of the songs are wonderful. The first one, it's called Too Sweet. And I feel like it's even like impacting my mood a bit today. Like it's putting a bit of a pep in my step. So yeah, my cause for applause is that Hosier continues to be wonderful.
Yay.
What about you? Either of you?
I'll say mine. And
Yeah,
Sam, if
great.
you have a cause for applause or something small you want to celebrate, you can say too. Mine's so random. I dyed my roots last night. I feel so
Okay.
much better. I don't have like
You're
all
funny.
because it's getting worse and worse, the grayness. And I know there's all this thing about embracing the gray. Sam, I'm 42. About embracing the gray, but I just feel better with my roots dyed and my purple hair tip. So I feel more like myself today that I don't see any gray hair. I'm not ready for the gray hair, and that's okay too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I am on the other side. I'm starting to see more gray hairs, and I'm like, ooh, like I love seeing my gray hairs.
See, there we go. That's why we're different. Sam, do you have anything small you want to celebrate today?
Let's think of something small. I mean, let's kind of continue the music theme. I'm planning on getting tickets. Well, I got the tickets, just going to get there. In a month, I'm going to see rock and roll group Saint Asania. So that's kind of exciting.
Fun.
And their leader, I'm going to meet. I got the VIP meet and greets. And the lead singer for that band was Adam Gontier, who was once previously the lead singer for 3 Days Grace.
Oh,
wow.
cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. I have to be honest, I haven't been to a concert in a while, and I'm due to go to something good. There's just something about, I don't know, the energy, the shared energy of a concert, right? The shared experience and the shared energy and people singing together. And there's just something about it that I think makes you feel connected.
Yeah, I think music can be such a solo experience. Like you can really like, be on your own and like listen to a song and feel like that person has sung that song just for you. But then you're in a stadium or like I'll be going to an amphitheater and all these people are singing along to the same song. And it's just like, these feelings that we have so deeply, at least with Hosier, like he just makes me cry. Like he makes me cry, he makes me laugh, he makes me dance. Like he's just wonderful. But yeah, I think that's part of it.
Sam, can I ask you a curious question about autism and going to concerts for you? I know that like there's a spectrum and different things. What's the experience like for you going to a big concert? Is it too much stimulation?
On who you're talking to. I know I have a friend who I know wouldn't be able to go to. I actually spoke about it with him the other day about concerts. He's like, "Don't you dare put me in there." So for him, no, but that's just him. It just depends on one person. When you meet one person on the spectrum, you meet one person.
Yeah.
For me personally, I like going. I like the music, but I freaking hate leaving.
Oh.
A concert because of traffic. When you're going, everyone's rushing out of there, and you're kind of like, "Oh, excuse me, oh, excuse me, oh, excuse me, oh, excuse me, oh, excuse me."
And it's just too much people bumping into you and too much stimulation, but you're good once you're there and in the moment and able to be
what
with
I'd rather do, honestly, if they would let me, is get a blanket, get a pillow, spend the night on the grass, sleeping in the car when I get there. Leave the next morning.
Yeah. Interesting. Thanks for that.
Sorry, Sam, have you ever been to a music festival where like you camp overground or overnight or anything like that?
No, it's just been concerts.
Yeah. Is that something that interests you?
I would have to do it first to know. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I feel like I've aged out of music festivals, but there was a time that they were very enjoyable.
All right, are we ready to start sharing, everyone?
Sure.
All right. Awesome. Okay, Shadow, go ahead.
Great.
Tell us your regret.
Today, I have an experience I need to let go of in order to move forward. And I regret, well, it's actually a complicated one, but mostly I regret feeling like I didn't grieve properly someone that was really important to me. So on April 1st, 2019, my grandmother passed away. It was about a year after my wedding, but a year before COVID. I'm still really curious about what she would have said about the pandemic and the response and everything else. Like, she was such a character. I'm sure she would have had some really interesting takes. But yeah, like when she passed away, like there wasn't there wasn't really an official ceremony or anything because everyone who wanted to come say goodbye did come say goodbye and things like that. And I've been holding on to this idea that like I would do something like really incredible in her memory, and now it's 5 years later and like I haven't done that. And so the regret is not that I didn't grieve properly, it's like I don't know, like there's this idea that like grief has a particular look or shape or whatever. And what's happening for me now, the consequences I'm missing out on is that there's been a lot of recent grief in my life, and I feel like I can't process that because I'm still stuck with this big major grief that I want to deal with in a very particular way. I get why I did that. Like she was my last living grandparent. So of course I'm going to feel like that has to be documented in a certain way. I get why I feel that way. And I get why we did it the way we did it as a family. And so I know that when she passed away, I did everything I could in those moments with the tools I had. And right now, I'm conflicted because I know that when other people are grieving, I'm the first person to say, don't judge yourself, just let it be felt, and all those like great bumper sticker therapy things that we say to people who are grieving. But then I can't take that advice on myself. As of today, I'm happy to talk about it because talking about it with the two of you has already like made me perceive it differently. And like the fact that I'm coming up on such a milestone anniversary of it, I think is also really something I've had to like sit with this week. But I know I'm worthy of feeling however I want to feel when someone is gone. And I just watched a movie last night where one of the lines was, grief is love that has nowhere to go. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And I'm going to take that with me as I continue to process additional losses. And yeah, that's the entire regret. I don't really know what else to share other than I'm grieving. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Would you like feedback from me and Sam, or do you just want to be heard today?
You know what? I would like some feedback.
First of all, I'm interested to hear what you have to say, Sam, because I know that you did an episode recently about grieving, right? Episode 255 of your podcast, Rest in Peace. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say. And I'm going to ask some curious questions too while Sam thinks about his feedback. Is first of all, you're still processing. And this idea that grief lasts for like a year and then you're done, or lasts for like 3 months and then you're done, is grief, I think, is an ongoing process. I lost my grandma 10 years ago similarly, and was very, very important to me. And there's times when I can remember her with joy, and there's other times I just want to have a good cry, and that's okay. And the other thing I want to say to you is, I feel like it's okay for you to say, I'm not okay with how my family dealt with it. You can give yourself permission to say that. You don't have to be one unified unit in how you grieve. And so you saying like, I get why my family did it that way, but sometimes when there isn't closure, it can feel like avoidance. And then the lack of closure is what kind of holds us back, and maybe why you feel like you're in limbo about it almost, or you can fill in the words here, but you're kind of in limbo. Or
I actually really like the word in limbo. The other thing is my grandmother was such a character that it's almost like perfect that she would go on April Fool's Day. Like it's something we joke about as a family all the time. But now it means that every April Fool's Day is kind of tinged a little, where I'm like, man, like what could I do to like honor her memory that also maybe fits like a little harmless prank. I don't know.
Well, that's perfect, right? Because it doesn't always have to be what society tells us it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's just whatever brings up the memory for you.
Yeah.
What do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm interested to hear what Sam has to
What do
say.
you think, Sam?
Well, first of all, I can very much relate to your regret. I lost my grandpa actually last year in
Oh,
December.
sorry.
So feel you on that one. And then after that, 2 family dogs went. So go figure on that one.
Mm-hmm.
When it rains, it pours, as they say.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel you. But I bet if I hadn't known your ground the way you're describing her, if you look up in the sky, I bet $1,000,000 she's smiling from ear to ear.
That's really, really comforting. There's this great picture from our wedding, actually, where like she's beside my husband and I'm beside my dad, and like there's some extended family there. And there's like the nice picture where everyone's just kind of doing their like cheesy like smile. And then in the very next picture, I don't know what happened, but she has her head like fully back and like guffawing at something that has happened. And that picture brings me so much joy because I don't even know what she's laughing at, but like, because like again, it's my wedding day, I'm not noticing all the nuances, but that picture of our family is probably like my favorite picture of my grandmother. Because she's not posed and trying to like be in the photo. She's very much in the moment and laughing at whatever's happening. So
I think there's this thing that happens when people die, or even animals, even pets, right? Especially I think dogs, because they have big personalities, we only want to remember the good things about them. And then we feel weird if we remember something that's maybe off key or we're not supposed to. We make them into these perfect human beings. But it actually feels better to remember them as they were, as the imperfect human being that they were. So your idea of like doing an April Fool's prank in her memory is really remembering who she was, right? Or sometimes it's okay to be like, I love that dog so much, but man, that dog would eat my shoes all the time and it drove me crazy. Or right? Like there's almost something more authentic and connected in grieving who people really are. And so back to that kind of, this is how my family didn't. We didn't have closure and being in limbo. Maybe it gives you an opportunity to really celebrate all of the crazy things or weird things or amazing things or special things or really authentic things about who she really was instead of this glorified version as well.
Okay, yeah. She didn't like my name. This was a story that we always talked about a lot when I was kids. So it's actually very funny. She kept a journal and like, you know, only a couple lines a day. Nothing too like my journals are like big, long epilogues. And then like I don't write for a while. Then I come back and write like 20 pages. She was very fastidious about it. She wrote a couple sentences every day. And my dad has the entire like series now.
What a gift.
I know. So I found the volume from my birth year. And on my birthday, the sentence is Dave and Lynn had a child. And then Shadow Ann, exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark, question mark. And when you look through her journals, she did not do like multiple exclamation mark, question marks. Like she very much wrote just nicely, period, nicely, period. Very rarely was there such, you know, gusto in the comment. But that's all it says is Shadow Ann. When I was born, my grandmother was living on a lake, and they had that radio where or telephone radio. I don't exactly know how it worked, but like my dad called the operator had to call someone else, and then that other person called party line. Okay.
Yeah, party line.
My dad heard person after person go, "Oh, Shadow Ann, that's so pretty. Oh, Shadow Ann, how unusual." Then it got to my grandmother and she went, "Oh, brother." And it's like, again, this story where it's just like, you know, just kind of a funny little capture of the things that she would do or say.
But that was her real personality. That was her real personality. And it's good to remember her real personality.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like what you're saying about the closure things. I do also feel like I carry a lot of this idea where like I don't want to be mad at like my father or my uncle because they lost their mom.
Yeah. I'm
Right.
not
So I
saying
don't want to
you
say
don't
like
have to
they
be
did it
mad at them.
wrong.
No, they did what they thought was right
Yeah.
for them, but that doesn't mean that has to be right for you.
True. That's
And
true.
you can do
That's
something else.
fair.
It's not about being mad. It's not about being resentful. It's about acknowledging that's their process, but it's not the right process for you. And what do you need to do in order to feel that? Or maybe just acknowledge when you are feeling your grandma. This sounds weird, but like my best friend Matt died when I was in my 20s. And there's always 1 week in March, which is the anniversary of death. And I don't remember death dates, but there's always 1 week in March, which for me was 2 weeks ago, where I'm like really moody and whatever. It's like my brain's remembering, but I'm not remembering. And then I go, oh yeah, it's March. Right. I'm like, I need to do something. So I go and I have a quiet moment. Maybe I talk to him, or I do whatever I need to remember him in my way, because my brain will inevitably tell me, or the universe will inevitably tell me. And that's okay. And that's what I need to do. Right. And you find what works for you, and what works for your family doesn't necessarily have to be what works for you.
Yeah, that's helpful too.
Yeah. Sam, can I ask you a curious question about grief? Just because you did an episode about it. How do you feel about it? Do you think you need closure? Do you think, how do you process it? Or how do you feel about it?
The way I process it is I literally mourn, and then I don't know if this is me being me, or I don't know if this is just great. I think it's the way someone will perceive it. I think it's a little bit of both. I just brush it off and just go on. Like I have to. Because if I stop and thinking about it, I'm not moving.
Do you get really overwhelmed with it? Like it takes over?
So so that's why if I think about it, I will not move on. So that's why I have to just brush it off and go along like it never happened. I'm not in denial. Like I know it's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's just like, all right, it happened. Let's go have a drink.
And does that feel good for you? Like that's what you know that you need to do, and that is how you process it. Yeah. See, so there's so many different ways that you can do it. And I don't think there should ever be judgment around grieving or expectations around it, or around, as long as you feel good about it and you feel connected to it, and you've acknowledged it. So I really like what you said there too, Sam, is I'm not in denial. I've acknowledged it, but this is what I need so that it doesn't overtake me. Right. And Shadow, maybe you need, in a different way, you need moments, and it's okay to cry and have, and that maybe that for you is closure. And I don't like necessarily using the word closure either, but there's something about acknowledgement, right? Like for some people that funeral is the acknowledgement, and there's something about acknowledgement of it. And then we're able to kind of move forward and include it in our lives, or include it in the background because we've acknowledged it. So Sam, again, I love that you said, I'm not in denial. I know that it happened, but this is what I need to do. And I think it's a very personal journey, grief. And I think everybody finds their own way through it. But again, to make sure that you feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely already feel a little bit more relieved, which is nice. Yeah. And I'm actually being reminded of an episode a couple episodes ago from another guest where we were introduced to the concept of worry time. So maybe I just need to set a timer. I just need to set a timer to like let it out however I need to let it out.
Time.
And then grief time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was our episode with Geet, everybody. If you want to listen to that episode with Geet is her pen name, and her name is actually Jody. So you can listen to that episode if you want to too. But yeah, that's well, is there anything else you want to say about it, Shadow?
No, I'm okay unless anyone else has questions or additional feedback.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Grief sometimes makes people feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it's almost one of the things people don't want to talk about too much. So I want to thank you for sharing. I think it's important to have these conversations, and important to also acknowledge that there's no right way or wrong way to do it. It sounds so cliche to say like death is a part of life, right? But
yes, yeah.
Because death is a part of life, it shouldn't be something that we shy away from talking about, and it's not something that I don't think we should be judging anyone and how they grieve losses either. So thank you for sharing that, being brave enough to share it. And I hope you feel good.
Yeah. Thank you both for your feedback.
Sam, are you ready to share your story with us, your regret with us?
Yep.
All right,
So
let's
mine's
do
gonna
it.
be a little bit of a story, but there's a point to it. Trust me. I've always had to say to people, I'm asking these strange questions, but there's a reason, or I'm stating this, but there's a reason why I'm stating this. All right.
Mhm.
So let's take you back to when I was diagnosed in school. All right. Pretty sucky experience. Not the staff. Great people. Students, though. Oh boy, where do we begin? Dealt with exclusion, dealt with all the fun stereotypes, and I say fun, I'm being sarcastic. I dealt with bullying, and I made several friends. Well, actually, scratch. I made one friend back then, and basically the whole entire time, that was the only person I had that I felt comfortable with. All right, fast forward to 15, worst time of the life. Didn't feel good at all. Felt like garbage. Didn't want to go to school. Well, then the following year, this has been a regret at 16 that it's still going on. Things started changing. I made friends and I started feeling good about myself. And then we're going to college. I had a group of friends that I still hang around with. We went bowling actually last week and did some train watching. One of them is a train fanatic. Again, I'll do whatever. That's just who I am. But the regret I'm having is because I was so used to that at 15 years old. There are days where I'm running from this change. Let's call it that. Running from the change. Still believing what I believe at 15 years old. Let's put it this way. I wish people could see. Have I been told he's a sweet guy. He's so nice. Yes. Do I believe that I am though? No. Do I think I'm a good guy? No. That's probably the biggest regret I'm going through is just not trying to backtrack.
Thank you, Sam. That's a big one. I feel that. Do you want to have some feedback about it and discussion about it?
By all means.
All right. I think this is a big one, regardless if you have a neurodivergency or not, right? I went through bullying when I was in elementary school as well. And there's always like this little person inside of you that still feels like the bullied person, right? So even when the good things start to happen, you almost don't believe they're happening. I like how you worded it that you're still running from the change. What was the change? Was the change that you made friends? Was the change that you became more confident? What's the change that you're running from?
You nailed it. You pretty much said it yourself. Friends, confident. I wouldn't have thought I would have had a group of friends, nor let alone be in a group chat.
Yeah. And it feels good.
It feels
but you're
good.
Still kind of questioning it.
Right. Because I'm not used to it. I'm scared to death that it's going to go back there. Or there's a part of me that, I hate to say it, wants to go back there because that's what I'm used to.
You want to go back there. Does it feel safe back there?
In a strange way, yes, because I don't have to deal with people. But the one negative with the positive is I like it better than the other. Don't get me wrong. If I didn't, I would go back there and then lock my answer in. But the one con was going forward, I knew I had to deal with other people, which is very hard for me to deal with others being on the autism spectrum because of certain behaviors that I have. And I'm afraid they're going to run off because of the behaviors that I present.
So interesting. And then Shadow, I'll let you, I can see you nodding your head. You've had this whole experience where you can't trust people.
Yeah, I don't trust people still.
You have like a few people here saying, hey, I like you, so you can trust me. But it's really hard to trust them because of all of your background experience.
Yeah, and I can't. I cannot trust people. Still don't to this day.
Yeah, and I think that's a really difficult place to be in, to move through that and process that. Shadow, what did you want to say?
Oh, Sam, I like that you actually, the two of you, there's this concept I'm working through right now where familiar isn't always safe, but familiar still feels really good. So I've definitely gone through periods of my life where I've been more isolated or more popular or however else. And I also find it very hard to trust people who say nice things about me. And I know it's that because my inner critic is louder than any of those nice voices. That inner critic was built brick by brick by people who were mean to me. So why do I still listen to it? I don't know why. It's almost like there's something in my wiring that wants to believe the loudest voice rather than the kindest voice. And I don't know how to switch it. It's been something I've been working on for 15, 20 years maybe at this point. So yeah, super relatable, Sam. I don't really have any like positive advice here. I just want to say that like sometimes we get so comfortable in isolation that putting yourself out there, even when you're getting all the positive stuff, isn't enough. And I know, I wish, I don't know, I want to say like it goes away or it gets better, but I don't know if it does.
Okay, so I'm going to say that it does.
Okay.
If you do the work, right? And Sam, like you are doing the work. You have this incredible podcast. You're being an advocate. You really are leaning into who you are. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why I'm a nice guy too is part of it is one, it's hereditary. I mean, my family's nice, so I became nice too.
Yeah. Aw, that's nice to hear.
But then I think part of the reason is why I go out of my way. One, because I like it, clearly. It's just naturally. But two, it's almost like to prove to myself that I'm not a bad guy. Despite the fact that I've been told I'm not, yet I still think I am. I've thought that since I was elementary school, and it's 2024, still think that.
So there's this quote that we've used on this podcast before that I think is really impactful, and it's kind of, I don't know, melted into the work that I'm doing. Every time you do something or follow through on something, you're giving your brain evidence that you can trust yourself. And it sounds like you're doing that, right? Like you're saying, whenever I do a nice thing, like I know that I'm a nice guy, right? There's another piece to that is that's building your confidence. And there's a difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Self-confidence is I can trust myself. I can do these things. I know I can do hard things. I know I'm capable, but self-worth is how we feel about ourselves. And they can support each other. The more you build your self-confidence, it can start to bleed into your self-worth, especially with what you're doing, interacting with people. But I think the other big part maybe is to be open to hearing people when they're telling you that you're worthy and that they love you and your friends, because that's also giving your brain evidence that you are worthy and a good person, right? So when your friends are saying these things to you, how they enjoy spending time with you, or even when they're saying, come and watch trains with me, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to support you because you like watching trains, you're giving your brain evidence. And that's why I say shout out to you too. And you're saying, I don't know if it ever goes away. The more you keep giving your brain evidence and the more you keep listening to that part of it, it will eventually mellow out. But you have to keep doing the work, and you both are doing the work, right? Sam, you're interacting with so many people and advocating with people on your podcast. You have this great group of friends now that you didn't have before. It takes time to build the trust of yourself, but I do think that you're well on the way in that journey.
Yeah, I hear you. I think what helps too is the fact that I'm a guy who will do anything pretty much. Like, I'm not a person who is like, we're doing this, period. Like, I'll go train watch with you. I don't care. It's not my thing I would do without you. So it's something I'm not going to go, I'm not going to start train watching the next day, but I don't mind doing it here and there. I'll do some of your interests. Like, you can have your fun, but whether you're with or without me, I'm going to have my fun.
Do you also ask your friends to have your type of fun with you and they agree?
Well, bowling, I think that kind of proved it.
There you go, right? Evidence right there. Because if they didn't want to hang out with you, they wouldn't, right? So there's some evidence right there that they want to have your fun with you and experience things with you too. And this is a huge regret. And I think a lot of people is this like listening to that inner voice and trying to leave behind the bullying as a child or those sorts of things, right? And I just want to thank you for sharing that. Like it's hard to say it out loud, and it brought up things for me too. So thank you. Like I think so many of us struggle with self-worth and self-confidence, or both. Yeah, I mean, I was bullied pretty bad in elementary school. Grade 9 wasn't fun for me. I pretty much stayed home every weekend. I went to a different school than all my bullies, but it took me a really long time to make friends. And then once I did, similar to you, I was like, oh, people like me. I now have a group of friends, but that kind of inkling feeling was still in there, right? That like, how did you say it? You're running away from it. Like that inkling feeling was just still there. So I think it's really important.
What's going to help too is I think you're definitely made some valid points, but I'm not ignoring you. Don't get me wrong, but I think what would also help too is time.
Yeah.
Let's think about, you want evidence. Let's look at the time span. How much years was I bullied? 15. Let's look at how much times are feeling good. Let's count. You'll have to do the math. I'm not a math genius.
Neither am I.
2024. Try to figure that. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 7. So 7 years. I feel like in my brain, because of your brain evidence, to show that you're not worthy, the more it goes up, it's going to get over and over and over. Before you know it, we'll be here. Right now, though, I'm still not here.
Yeah, I love that.
Incredible.
That's like a rational way of looking at that saying, like time heals. So you're saying like eventually there will be more years in my life where I wasn't bullied versus the amount of years in my life where I was. So then I can say, okay, this overrides this. Is that kind of what you're saying?
If things go smoothly, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that way of looking at it too, right? This is why I love having these conversations too, and hearing how different brains work and different perspectives work, because I wouldn't have thought about it that way at all, but that makes so much sense to me when you say it that way, Sam.
Yeah. Well, plus too, I always get scared because I'm not a guy who likes to follow trends. Let's put it that way. You won't hear me listening to Morgan Wallen. Let's put it that way a lot. No offense if you are a fan, but I'm the guy who is a rock and roll, and I'm just scared of when I say, oh, these are the interests, here are these negative things about me that I'm not, that are just true facts. That example, I can't drive. I like certain rock and roll music that people look like, what the heck? He likes that. Or the fact that, okay, maybe I'm not a person, I mean, I shower, don't get me wrong, I do. I don't like my hair to get wet unless it's nighttime. I'm always scared that if I speak about some of these things that are blockage, not because of I meant like I don't want to do it, it's just I get overwhelmed, I get scared to death, I'm going to burn the house down when I cook. People are going to run off.
I think all of those things are incredibly interesting, and they make me feel curious about you. And those are the people that you want in your life that are curious. Curiosity is different from judgment, right? Like being curious about it, asking questions, and then saying, how can I support you in that? Because I think you're an interesting person. Every human being has oddities about themselves that I can't wear nail polish. I feel like I can't breathe when I wear nail polish on my fingers. I can wear nail polish on my toes, but I can't wear it on my fingers. I feel like I can't breathe. I don't know what that's about. Right. Shadow, what were you going to say?
I'm trying to use the word notice a lot. So as I operate through my ADHD diagnosis, which is only like 4 or 5 years old at this point, I notice that some of my emotions, when I can't make them like cute little jokes or like a big dramatic effect, because that's what I like to do, I either start doodling, or as I've been doing for the last 5 minutes, I've been fidgeting like a lot. Like I have all my fidgets hidden under the camera, and I am fidgeting so much right now because I have so many things to say that I can't think of the best thing to say here. Sam, you're just such a very genuine person, which to me, that trumps nice or not nice every time. Like you're very genuine, and I have a hard time dealing with non-genuine people. Yeah, I just am so pleased that you're here today. I want to give you a chance here to like is there anything you want to say here, either about the regret or the experience so far? Because we want to make sure you have the last word.
Well, I mean, it's kind of depressing, but if you want it, hey, let me put this, it's depressing, but you want it, you asked.
Yeah.
If only I could believe you.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fair and honest. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yep.
The best part is that this is now recorded. So Sam, you can come back and listen to Shadow to say that many, many, many times over whenever you need to hear it or listen to that. And again, I know that you're an advocate for autism, but I also just love how you say you're not broken and you don't need to be fixed, because everything that you're experiencing, people experience, whether they're on the spectrum or not, whether they have ADHD or not. Shadow's saying she's experiencing it. I am too. And that's human connection. And so I really want to thank you for that. And thank you for being an advocate and just, I love your viewpoint and the way that the reason you have your podcast and how your podcast is just being open and honest too. And thank you. Thank you for being honest, because I have hope and faith with everyone that I work with and talk to that you may not start to believe in yourself after one conversation, but that it plants the seed in your brain. And so thank you for being honest, and hopefully that seed will start to grow. And again, I think the best message that you gave today too was the time. So when you get past the 7-year point, because it was 7 years ago, and you get to you're 8 years now versus the more time that you have being in the space that you're in now, we'll start to heal that. So thank you. What an amazing conversation. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you so much. Sam, do you want to give a shout out to your podcast, a shout out to any of your websites? Is there anything that you want to say so that everyone that's listening, how can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they learn from you? What's the best way to do that?
You can find me on your favorite media platform. I'm pretty much everywhere. It's not hard to find me. Podbean, Spotify, YouTube. You Google me, something will pop up.
So we Google your name or your podcast?
Oh, sure. Fair enough on that one. Autism Rocks and Rolls.
Awesome.
Autism Rocks and Rolls, everybody. Shadow's listened to some episodes. I have too. We think it's really great. And we love your message. And we're so grateful and thankful that you came on the podcast and had this discussion with us today. So,
and my husband's super envious of the Mick Foley episode. He's only met Mick Foley for like a photo op, and it was his phone background for years after that photo op. So the fact that you actually got to have a conversation.
Just FYI, if you travel to Indy, he'll be there.
So thank you so much, Sam. And if you want to join us for our 3 breaths, we always finish the episode just doing 3 breaths to connect to ourselves. So everybody listening out there, come onto the front edge of your chair. If it's safe for you to do so, put your feet flat on the floor. And if you want, you can put your hand on your heart. And we're just going to take a big breath in. And as you exhale, say to yourself, may you be well. Another big breath in. As you exhale, say to yourself, may you be kind to yourself. And on this last breath, big breath in. May you be safe and at ease. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, today. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We love your support. Keep supporting us. Keep sending us those 5-star reviews and sending us comments in our DMs. We love it. Thank you so much, Sam, for being here. It was just a wonderful, insightful experience. We appreciate you so much. And we'll see you, hear you, talk to you in the next one, everybody. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. This episode of Let's Relieve Regret was produced by Shadow Ball and Victoria Muir-Garcia. We are an independent podcast supported by you, our listeners.
You can become a supporter by donating $3, $5, or even $8 per month at www.letsrelieveregretpodcast.buzzsprout.com and click on the support button. You can find the link in the show notes.
Our goal is to empower as many women as possible to overcome the shame and guilt that accompanies regret.
If this podcast helped you have an aha moment, help us spread the word. It's free for you, and it means the world to us.
Please follow us on Instagram at relieve.regret.
Tell 2 friends.
Or leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Find all this information and more in the show notes. Okay,
Bye.